Hudson Link is a prison education ministry. The prisoners in Sing Sing are educated through Mercy College in Dobbs Ferry, thus the Hudson Links. It was originally funded by Pell Grants. These grants are no longer available. Another member of our congregation, Ed Clark, has done much to help these men. When I told our social ministry about this impressive program right in our backyard, they asked me to invite Sean Pica, its founder, so our congregation could hear and learn more about it. Prisons are a neglected area of our outreach, but it is one that Jesus talked about in his ministry more than once. So I am very pleased to introduce you to our guest Temple Talk speaker today, Sean Pica.
Good morning. Good morning. I always notice the closer you get to the front of the church, the bigger it seems. Not scarier, just bigger. I hang out with Susan and Ed quite a bit, and I remember moving to Ossining when we first started Hudson Link, and I didn't know where to go, and the rent seemed so extreme. And the assemblywoman said, "You should talk to Mr. Klotz." The best advice I've ever had. And actually yesterday we were interviewing someone in the office, and Ed was there, and I didn't know how to explain who Ed was. And I said, he's kind of the godfather of Hudson Link in a way, and it kind of goes on and on like that. There were over 300 college programs in prisons all over the country up until 1994. We were going through this kind of getting tough on crime era, and legislatively, those funds were taken away. It was a unique political view, since education in prisons was the only thing that statistically proved to drop the rate of recidivism, the rate of men going back to prison. So politically, they said, you can keep the college programs, you can have them in the prisons, you just can't have the funding for them. Overnight, those college programs evaporated. And there were a few colleges, like Skidmore and Mercy and Marist, that stuck around even though the funding was taken away. But even then, it didn't last very long. Hudson Link was created by the men at Sing Sing to actually pick that torch up, pick that one thing up that we knew was going to break those chains. Traditionally, the men and women that go through this program come from communities that don't go to college, that have children that don't think of college as an option. So this is so much bigger than affecting the life of one student, one degree, one direction of their life. Because now that we're in our 14th year, we're seeing that the spouses and parents and children of these students are now going to college as well. And we're really not just breaking these chains of non-education with the students that are incarcerated in the facilities where we are, but also their families as well. So the work that was started in Sing Sing 14 years ago didn't stay in Sing Sing. It actually has traveled back to the communities that the men and women come from. And it's affecting so much more in this rippling effect. I do know firsthand, I'm not just the founder, that sounded corny, right? I'm not just the director. I also went through the program. When I was 16 years old, I got into trouble. Good family, my mom and dad were New York City cops, good neighborhood. I was actually a Boy Scout when I got in trouble, and that's not a great testament for the Boy Scouts, right? But I found myself in prison, and New York is one of only 2 states where at 16 you're considered an adult. And I was sentenced to 24 years in prison. I went in at 16. I came home when I was 33. I only served 16 of the 24. I know it sounds crazy, but I was released after 16 years in prison I went through 9 different maximum security prisons over 16 years, but I was lucky enough to be able to get an education while I was there. I was only in the 9th grade when I got in trouble, and when I came home, I had a degree from Hudson. And I do remember as I was going to classes, and my parents saying, well, it's great you're staying positive and doing positive things even in this negative place, but that's not going to help you much when you get out, because the people in this room are going to look at you and say, we know where you've been, and we're not going to let you back in. But what I found since I've been home, and I'm home 10 years now, is that the fact of the matter is people are very forgiving, and people know that you've made mistakes, but they also know that you've done a lot to get back on track again, right? That's what second chances are all about. But that's not good enough. Having a degree is really the second part of that. Because having good intentions and wanting to do right only gets you so far. And I found that with that college diploma, the only thing I left prison with after nearly 2 decades, I was employable, even with my background, even with the things that I had done as a kid. I've worked in a few different places, mostly as a social worker. And then about 5 years ago, I was asked to take over Hudson as the director. When I did that, I realized that I'm now in control of something that gave me a second chance at life. Talk about being grateful. We're now in 5 different facilities, 300 students, 5 different college partners, and still no state and federal funding. So we're very, very lucky to be where we are, but we also made a movie with Moxie Pictures last year. And that movie is called Sing Sing University. The documentary's won 11 Best Film and Best Doc awards across the country. And we're going to do a screening, a private screening, because it's airing on HBO later this fall, and I'm only allowed to do private screenings now. We're doing a private screening here in the library. It's a 66-minute edited version. Everyone's welcome if you'd like to see the documentary. It's totally free. I'm not going to pass a hat at the end, I promise. But come and see what's happening at your local prison. Come and see what the men and women are doing and what we're doing when we come home. Because that's the real testimony of what's going on here. So I thank you so much for inviting us. I thank you so much for allowing us to show the film. And I thank you so much for everything that you're doing here in the community. Thank you.